Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this podcast. Now, let's get to the show. And as always, Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift off and the clock has started.
What's up, Rip City? This is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazers. This is going to be an extremely short podcast. It's just me today. There's no Fouad or Mike, so I just kind of wanted to do a little small podcast. It's not going to take too long, so there's not much to talk about, honestly. But I did want to do at least a little podcast. Try to stick to this, getting one out every week. So with that being said, I'm just going to jump in and talk about the couple things I had to talk about. So since our last podcast, we've actually only had one game, and that was against the Pelicans, which unfortunately we lost. The next game we were supposed to have was against the Brooklyn Nets, and we all know that they were, COVID kind of went through their whole team, and, even though there's all these rules about teams having to sign players and, have a full roster, I guess the NBA didn't want the Nets playing without, a couple of their stars. So that game got postponed. And as of right now, I still don't think we have a date for that game. So as of right now, that's a to be determined date for that one. But we are currently playing the Dallas Mavericks. And let me check the score real quick. It's at a commercial, so I have no idea what the score is. Actually, I guess I could check my phone. Looks like we're losing 58-42. What we're going to talk about just briefly on this podcast about the only news we have is we were one of the only teams to not be really affected by COVID, and that was short-lived. We now have more than a couple players that have COVID or at least tested positive for COVID. The first two were Dennis Smith Jr. and Trendon Watford, which unfortunately we were starting to see, a couple minutes of Trendon Watford, and because of CJ's injury, seeing a little more of Dennis Smith, but they now have tested positive for COVID, so they were not able to play. And then after they tested positive, they had to retest the entire team, which then Robert Covington, Ben McLemore, Keldon Blevins, and then eventually Nurkic as well, all tested positive for COVID as well. So this game against Dallas, we are without any of those players, which a couple of them obviously were important players for us, which then leads me to talk about the players we ended up signing to 10-day contracts to cover that time because we're forced to play our games when we have players out. So we signed a guy named Cameron McGriff, and first off, I want to shout out Vibin. He came into the Discord server and kind of broke all the news on all these and then kind of gave us a small breakdown on each player and what to kind of expect from them. So the first guy we ended up signing was Cameron McGriff from the G League. And then we also ended up getting a guard, Jaron Cumberland, and I believe he played for the G League as well. Yeah, he did. And then we signed Brandon Williams to another 10-day hardship deal out of the G League. So obviously, I would be shocked if anybody really knew much about these players. I mean, nothing against the players, but I don't know how many people keep tabs on players in the G League. But Vibin did kind of give us a little breakdown, so I just kind of wanted to go over them. He said all three of them played in the G League showcase, the winter showcase. He said McGriff is a 6'7" forward who averaged 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 block. Jaron Cumberland is a 6'5" wing who averaged 20 points per game, 6 rebounds. and won the G League Winter Showcase MVP. And Brandon Williams averaged 17 points per game. I don't have the height for him or anything. From watching what little of this game I have so far, I have seen McGriff. I don't believe I've seen Cumberland or Williams yet. Um, let me pull up the stats while I talk here, but I don't think I've seen either of them. But what I have seen, we've seen a small little snip of Greg Brown out there. Um, he got 2 fouls pretty quick. I think he only played like 2 minutes and he got 2 fouls. So we've also saw we had a CJ Ellaby sighting, which was, as we all know, it's always entertaining to see what what happens with him. But unfortunately, it's going to be a tough game even with Lillard playing. He's Lillard has done pretty decently. Sorry, I keep turning away from my mic to see the score of the game. Um, but right now it's just kind of looking like we're a little underprepared skill wise for the players that the Mavericks have. Which obviously the Mavericks don't have Luka right now, but they're mostly healthy with a lot of real NBA. Let me take that back. I don't want to say real NBA players, but NBA players that are in the league, not due to the COVID issue. So, one thing that's pretty funny is they have two players named Brown with the last name Brown, and we had Greg Brown out there, and at one point all three of them were out there, I believe, and it was funny hearing them say Brown so many times. But shout out to Moses Brown. He did play for us a couple years ago. He is with Dallas right now, and he got some playing time. So it's always fun to see former Blazer players still playing. But truly, there's not much to talk about. The COVID issue. Hopefully, it stays to these players that we have, and we can move on from this. I was saying that I felt like we were gonna have a break in the season because of all the outbreak, but now it's looking like we're not going to. I know the Christmas Day games were missing a lot of star power, so I believe the Spurs were. I saw some picture of like Patty Mills, and I don't even remember who they were playing, but that was like the headliner. Was those players were the showcase players, and I was like, that's not something you see every day. But COVID sucks. It's been here too long, and it's ruined a lot. On top of COVID, for those of you that aren't around the Oregon area, we had a little bit of a winter storm come through. So at least around my area, and I know that I have friends that live up near Portland. That same with them. There was a pretty decent amount of snow, a lot more down where I live, but there was some up in Portland. So I was curious to see, already with the fan issue, the attendance issue, at the games, how many people were actually going to show up. And surprisingly, the camera hasn't cut away to the crowd too often, so I can't really tell how many people are actually there. But I would assume probably not as many as normal, even with their reduced numbers. But other than that, the only thing I had to really talk about was that we got the news that CJ had fully recovered from his, I want to say punctured lung, but that's not it, his collapsed lung. He still hasn't come back yet. I think they're still they're wanting to get conditioning done. But as of right now, he is fully recovered from it, and I would assume probably by next week he's going to be back. Probably once everybody clears that COVID protocol and they come back, and pretty much once everyone's clear from that as a team, I would expect him back. We still haven't had any trades. There hasn't really been any trades in the NBA. I don't think any yet. So, and truly, I didn't expect any trades to happen right off the bat. But it's only time will tell. But I still do believe that there will be some big trades happening with us. But other than that, the only other thing I could think of off the top of my head was the All-Star voting is live now, and I've seen a lot of people, lobbying for Lillard to be an All-Star. And honestly, it's an All-Star exhibition game. It's for the fans. If the fans want to see, this was the issue I always had growing up as a kid. When players, for example, I always watched Tracy McGrady. So when Yao Ming would be out for the first half of the season because he had an injury, and he still makes the All Star game. I get it's for the fans, but there are players that are stepping up and playing, great, and they don't get to experience this All Star game because of, the I wouldn't say the bias, but just the power of the fandom that players have. So obviously, we're gonna see LeBron, even though he hasn't, played as much. We're obviously gonna see a lot of players that haven't played. I'm honestly a little curious what's gonna happen with Lillard because we all know he's an all star, and we all know, he does deserve to be in the game. But I'm curious to see if he makes it this year because of the slow start. He's missed a couple games. I still think he probably does just off the name and then his resume, but sometimes I wish it wasn't a fan vote and it was more just like this year what players are playing at all-star level. And yeah, Lillard lately has been playing at an all-star level, but it's those consistent players that you know we don't get to see in the all-star game that we feel like we should. But I won't complain if he makes it. I love watching him there. It's fun to see him, and maybe while he's there, he can try to try to recruit somebody to sign with us, or in free agency. I know we say this every year, but maybe we can get someone in free agency. But other than that, I mean, I don't really have much. It's halftime. We're down 72-53, so it's not looking good. But I just wanted to get in here and do a quick little podcast. I hope everybody had a great Christmas, spent time with family. If you didn't celebrate family or Christmas, you just had a nice relaxing day. For the people around Oregon, I hope you enjoyed the snow. I'm not the biggest fan of snow, but we don't get it too often. Seems like when we do get it though lately, it's been a lot. So, but I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I hope everybody stay safe. That's dealing with the snow right now, and I just hopefully we win tonight. We pull out a crazy comeback. It'd be great to see. But other than that, I don't really have much. Next Monday we should have Fawad back, and hopefully Mike will be there too. He's a true warrior, having to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning to do these podcasts and watch Blazer games. So I don't fault him at all for when he can't make it. So anytime he does, it's a treat, and we appreciate him staying up late and battling through tiredness to do a podcast with us. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great night. And as always, Rip City, baby.